Right, this is the basic description of what I understand by pulmonary function tests. So pulmonary function tests are a bunch of tests that basically help uh, estimate or measure how well the lungs are able to release air from the lung. It also helps us estimate with that how quickly a patient can move gases through their lung, which also correlate with how much oxygen they can absorb from the atmosphere. Uh, so pulmonary function tests, because it's based on the size of the lung, several things affect each of their values, and these can be age of the patient, sex of the patient, height of the patient, and race of the patient. And when we look at what's abnormal, we would look at uh, a population, and what we consider abnormal is 2 standard deviation below the mean for that population is considered abnormal. What do we do when we're doing a spirometry? While doing a spirometry, patient has to be able to comply with the test or understand the test, and they should be able to, one, deeply inhale to total lung capacity, hold their breath until for a few seconds, and once prompted they should be able to exhale as hard and fast as they can for at least 6 seconds, and hopefully get to their residual lung volume. So that's the basic thing you need to know about spirometry. The values we get from a spirometry are FVC, or forced vital capacity, that is the total volume of air that is exhaled; forced expiratory volume 1, which stands for the volume of air that has been exhaled as quickly as possible in 1 second. Then we put a ratio between these two, which comes out as a percentage or a ratio. The FEV1 over FVC ratio will give us an indication on the type of lung disease or restrictive or obstructive picture. The peak expiratory flow rate, which is calculated on the slope of the curve that they get, and that helps decide on how many liters of air that they can push in 1 second. Also, we get an FEF, or which is mid flows. It's from 25 to 75, but what it means is the average of flow from the time when 25% of the FVC is exhaled until the 75% of the FVC is there. So it's a mid zone from mid 50% of the peak expiratory flow gives us an FEF value. Now this is a basic or normal peak flow meter, or a description of it. It's got two axes. One is volume in liters and the other one is time in seconds. Now I've tried to draw this as best as I can. Time starts at 0 and the patient's volume starts at 0. So this is a deep inhalation, and as soon as you say go, the patient exhales as hard and fast as they can, and they pause for a second, go into their second, and then the flow tends to slow down, and then it plateaus out or has a slight incline, and usually gets to about 5 to 6 liters, and at about 6 seconds the curvature either goes dramatically down and goes back to 0 because they'll be getting ready for an inhalation. So this would be described as, roughly I'm describing it as a normal graph. The forced expiratory volume on a normal individual is expected to be about 4 liters, and forced vital capacity is about 5 liters. The ratio obviously is divided between these two. It's 4/5, which can be either written down as 80% for a normal adult or 0.8 as a ratio. The peak expiratory flow rate is calculated in this first second, so it's calculated on the inclination of the graph, and for a normal individual, the blast of air that comes out of their lungs in the first second or first half a second, it can be up to 8 liters per second. It would be equivalent to 480 liters per minute on a home peak flow meter. So that's what I understand from the basic numbers that we see on the peak flow meter. Interpreting these results also is based on the quality, which can sometimes be poor flow, but it can be compliance related, so it can be patient related, and it can skew the data that we get. If we look at the numbers that we get, so we have to make sure the data is correct before we interpret it. Number 2 is FEV1 and FVC ratio. So that's when we look at when do we say it's an obstructive or when we say it's a restrictive picture. And an obstructive picture is considered a FEV1 ratio or FVC ratio below 0.6, 0.65 or 65%. So that's divided into 3 categories. If it's more than 65 to 80, it's considered a mild obstructive picture. If it's 65% or less, it's considered a moderate obstructive picture, and if it's below 50%, it's considered a severe obstructive picture. Now, if the FEV1 FVC ratio is high or normal, it's not considered obstructed, right? So therefore it can be a normal peak flow meter without any lung condition, and other causes should be looked for. The FVC is low, can be related to a restrictive picture, which will go down the route of assessing a helium dilutional study or a plethysmography to help decide if it's a restrictive picture, which I haven't looked into.